You're listening to the Business Marketing Show, episode number 69. You can find us at businessmarketingshow.com on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. Hello, and thank you for listening to the Business Marketing Show. This is Keay-Smith with my co-host Brendan Tully, and we have a guest on the show today, Mr. Con Kazantzidis from the straywhisker.com.au and also from his YouTube channel, Shave the Man. Now, the reason we have Con on the show today is he runs a successful e-commerce business selling shaving products, which is quite a surprise for a lot of people. They go, okay, didn't realize that sort of thing existed. So we're going to deep dive into what Con does, how he got started, and a bit of the backstory on how I actually met Con, and have been super impressed with his business and how he conducts his e-commerce store. So welcome to the Business Marketing Show podcast, Mr. Con. How are you, buddy?
I'm very well. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
You are
Hi, Brendan.
Most welcome. Yeah, so Brendan and Con don't know each other. This is the first time they're actually connecting and speaking for the first time. So I've known Con for a few months now. I actually became aware of Con and what he does and his business on YouTube because I initially got back into what is classified as traditional wet shaving. And that's where I'm going to let Con explain that because he'll do a much better job of what that is. But that led me to watching a lot of Con's YouTube channel videos, which were awesome. And then I realized he had a website that sold a lot of the products that he was talking about. So, and then we made some connections, and I was in Sydney recently where Con lives, and caught up with Con and his lovely wife, Kim, who is the backbone of his business by the sounds of it. And, yeah, and here we are. I thought I'll invite Con on because he's got an interesting story. So, Con, thank you for coming on, and I just wanted to go back in time a little bit before all this sort of stuff you're doing now. Like you're running an e-commerce business now. You've been doing the YouTube stuff for quite a few years. What were you doing before that? How does one get into doing this sort of stuff? What was your backstory?
You know, it's an interesting story because it's one that I'm mindful of changing every time somebody asks me it, because I think that I've got to remember this. I've got to remember exactly when it all happened. You know, that moment where I thought that this was something that I was going to end up being very, very interested in, and in fact, then making a business and a career of sorts in. As the name implies, traditional wet shaving is about that. It's about traditions. It's about a return to first principles. And well over 10 years ago, my father passed away, and when I went to visit Mum one afternoon, she said, "Look, there's some stuff there that I'm sure your father would like you to have had." So she handed over a trusty old shave brush and his razor. Mm-hmm. Now, I recall that in the final years of my father's passing, he wasn't really using this traditional razor. He went to sort of cartridges, but well before that, the only thing he would shave with were these sort of, old school whack in a razor blade type safety razors. And I could remember hearing him shave from the next room, right? I thought this was hardcore stuff. Oh, gosh. So one day he sat me down, he said, "Listen, this is the way you shave. This is what you got to do." He taught me about, shaving with the grain and then across it, never against it, of course. And there was something about it. The whole experience for me seemed to engage all the senses. Well, firstly, as I said, I could hear him from the next room. I could always smell these wonderful products he was using. I mean, obviously there was the soap, and then of course he'd finish off with an aftershave, so so scent was a part of it. And then watching him lather his face and all that. So it was kind of I guess it was a bit of nostalgia that brought me along to it. And so I thought, God, I wonder if men still shave like this. And so as many people do, I started to search around the internet and see if there were, in fact, communities, or if these products were still available. And they were, thankfully. Now, we keep talking about a return to this traditional way of shaving. there are parts of the world that never left it.
Mm.
There are countries that continue to and won't and are not interested in adopting cartridge razors from very, very large organisations like, and I'll mention them, Gillette and Schick and all these, Mac 3 and Mac 4 and whatever they're up to at the moment,
Mac
7 or something.
Yeah, Mac 16, with 17 lubricating strips and 500 blades.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
and vibrating balls and
the vibrating ball and all that sort of stuff. That's right. So look, I was very I thought, but it was more for me. It was still more. It was nostalgia.
Yeah.
And not so much the return to first principles. It was mainly nostalgia, but that sort of energized me in a way. And I thought, I better look stuff up. And there were a few things around. There were a few YouTube. I won't call them influencers, although they've influenced thousands and thousands of people. But they were guys that were sort of almost personalities. They were on there talking about what your father didn't teach you about shaving, and guys that I've sort of become good friends with now over the years. But essentially, they were guys that were just doing instructional videos. In other words, you got a guy stands in front of a mirror, pulls out a brush, lathers his face and shaves.
I know when you're saying it, it's quite weird. And I've sat and watched many of these videos, and my wife and daughter think I'm absolutely loopy, and they laugh at me, and I'm just going, yeah, look, I know. I'm watching a video of a grown man shave his face, and it's fascinating. It's weird. Anyhow, sorry, keep going.
So, so let's go back to where it all began with me after this whole. So I'd received those items. They were very, very near and dear to me. There was the sort of thing that you'd put up in a display case and say, yeah, they were Dad's old things and they were wonderful and all the rest of it. But soon after that, I think it was about a month or so, we bought this new camera and I wanted to give it a go. And because I'd watched some videos, I thought, let's test the lighting on this camera. I wanted to see whether it would operate under sort of kind of unfavourable lighting conditions, because bathroom lighting, although people think it's very bright and all the rest of it, it really is, unless you've got a very, very, very good camera, it can be quite challenging. And it was. And that was when the first video was born. And basically what I did was I lathered a very traditional Italian almond-based soap, and the whole thing looked kind of orangey and amber. It had a horrible sort of. They were very, very low. They were very low production values, gentlemen. I will say that anyway. But within a week, we got over 1,000 views.
Wow! Within a week.
And I thought, and I thought, what's going on here? So I went into the statistics, went into the back end of everything, and had a look. And most of the views were coming from Italy.
Right.
And I thought, why is that happening? Well, because I had actually used the name of the soap word for word, put it in the title, used the word mandorla, which is Italian for almond.
Yep.
And all these guys in Italy had they thought it was fantastic. Of course, the video was done in English, and all I really did was just lather this thing in a bowl. It was boring as this video, but it still has one of the highest counts of views. And so I thought, there's something here. And I used my background, which is originally in teaching, so I was a high school teacher, and thought, well, I like communicating, I like talking to people. So the next video will be a little more instructional. And so I used a few images that I'd taken and did more like a Ken Burns kind of thing, which was also very bad.
And just to, sorry to interrupt you, just to be clear here, at the time you did not have an e-commerce store, okay? You were just putting up videos because
No, that's right.
It was a new discovery for you.
Well, the very first video was done in January of 2014.
Right.
No e-commerce store at all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In fact, by that time I'd left teaching full time altogether and had another business, which was a cafe. I was in hospitality and ran that I ended up having that for about 18 years. So get this, there's a guy who enjoys shaving, does videos, and owns a cafe, who was a school teacher.
Yeah, what a mix.
What a mix. So I got more and more interested in this stuff, and you would know this very well, Ed, that it's kind of addictive.
Oh,
you
yeah,
think,
very.
Oh, I love this. There's all these scents, and you're not aware that there are all these products that are available that can make your what would ordinarily be a very mundane and boring activity that most men have to do in some cases every day into something exciting.
Yeah, I can honestly say that if I could shave twice a day now, I would, which sounds strange, but in the past 2 months, I have not missed a day shaving, and that is the first time I've been able to shave every day in my whole life, and I turned 50 this year. But in any way of shaving I've done in the past, I could not shave more than 2 to 3 days a week. So I'd actually pick the days I was going to shave because of the irritation on my face and neck. And now I can shave every single day, baby butt smooth, and it's fantastic. So sorry to interrupt, but that was a
no, that's not an interruption at all. In fact, it's interesting. This is why, see, the reason, and this is what I've found talking to, hundreds and hundreds of guys, they don't like shaving because it irritates their skin. It's as simple as that. Yep. These guys that are leaving 3 and 4 day stubbles, people think, oh, yeah, you're lazy, you can't be bothered. Well, they can't be bothered because they can't be bothered being irritated.
Yeah, exactly.
It's irritation. I hate it. And I was one of those guys. I hated it. And in fact, for me, I was looking for a solution because when I was teaching, I had to wear collared shirts. It was a requirement of the school that I was at. And I was going through shirts like there was no tomorrow. I was, my whiskers on my neck would damage these collars.
Yeah.
Right? Because I had to wear a tie and all that sort of stuff because it was one of those schools where I had, you had to dress, you had to be presentable. So I thought, God, why am I going through all these shirts, And it was because I didn't like shaving and because there was a stubble there all the time. And when you turn your neck and, through the course of the day, what you're doing is you're fine. Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. So I've actually saved on shirts as well. I'm not damaging my shirts. But you don't have to wear a tie with every shirt, of course. But what I'm saying is that it provided a solution to a problem. Firstly, that I didn't know I had, and secondly, one that I knew I had, and that was that I had to shave, but didn't know I didn't know how I was going to go about saving these shirt collars. But as it turned out, wet shaving allowed me to do that. I know it sounds a bit silly, but it was a solution to a problem.
So I've got a question for Brendan because. Brendan, are you still there?
I'm still here.
Have you checked out? I think he muted himself, Con, because he was laughing too much at our little interludes of shaving delights. I have a question for Brendan because for those who know Brendan and see pictures of Brendan, usually you see him with a beard or some type of stubble. Now, do you choose to have a beard because you want to have a beard, or is it just out of convenience, or because you didn't like shaving? Just interested to know what your daily thing is.
It's probably a combination of being lazy, instructions from my girlfriend.
Okay. Well, and look,
time saving.
Yeah, and that everyone has a different reason of why. There's lots of guys I know who they met their wife/girlfriend when they had a beard, and that was part of the attraction. Was the beard? So shaving off the beard, sort of like, it could be in trouble.
It's just part of my rugged.
That's it. That's it. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's not, I'm saying, absolutely, just to be clear, I'm not having a go. I'm just curious as to, because everyone has different reasons as to how they go about their daily routine of shaving or not shaving or just having a goatee or, the thing is.
Well, I did have to watch YouTube videos to learn how to have a beard because once I was going through the cycle of let it grow for a week or two, shave it all off. And it was just driving me nuts. So I actually had to spend some time researching and how to actually have a beard. So
yeah, there you go. And same thing. And that's, I don't know if you haven't got a whole stack of stuff about beards on your channel, do you? But you do a lot of stuff about that and you have products for that.
Yeah, we do. I carry a lot of most facial grooming accoutrements, the beard oils and moustache waxes and all the rest of it. Yeah. But just going back to this thing of the beard. Now, I suspect, and I don't have any hard evidence, this is all anecdotal, but it's something that I've been able to glean from what I've seen around me. I think the stubble became and is fashionable because the methods of removing it are very uncomfortable. And so stubble became the new cool, just like bald is the new cool, right? If you're thinning out, you just shave it all off. off.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
It's as simple as that. Now, there was a time where men, would do the old comb over.
Yeah.
And you feel like saying, listen, guys, I mean, it's pretty obvious. You're losing your hair. You may as well just get rid of the whole bloody thing. There's no point keeping it if who are you trying to fool here?
That's it. Maybe Donald Trump will turn up one day with a chrome dome.
He might.
Can you imagine that?
He might.
That'd be funny.
So I think what's happened is it's a social norm. Like a lot of guys that are getting married now get married with a stubble. Now, I'm sure that in the 60s or even the 50s and 60s, that would have been unheard of. A guy turning up to his wedding with stubble growth would have looked like a hobo or a bum.
Yes.
Well, who's this guy? What? But then there's it's no coincidence that at that time men were shaving with safety razors. They weren't shaving with Gillette 3s and 5s and 7s and all this sort of stuff. So it was a more comfortable way. So interestingly, shaving is comfortable. You don't mind doing it. When it's uncomfortable, you then fall into this pattern where the stubble is the new cool. And then, of course, because we're all impressionable, where this is what the human race is about, we're impressionable, it becomes something that even then women, or men, I guess, think that is attractive because it becomes the norm. And so the stubble is the thing. Now, I know a lot of women that love stubble. They want a man with a beard, but I also know equally a lot of women that want their men clean shaved.
Yeah.
So, it's a social norm, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And that's a great thing. What you do accommodates everybody in terms of that. And so, we've touched on how we met and say, the YouTube videos was how I saw you. And then I just started buying, as you've experienced, quite a lot of wet shaving products.
Yeah.
And as you say, it can be addictive. So it's either the most economical way to shave or it's the most expensive, depending on how you go about it. If all you do is go in and buy one really good quality a razor, decent quality razor blades to go in the razor, a decent quality brush and a decent quality soap, then it absolutely beats hands down any cartridge shaving applications. And, when you're spending $5 a cartridge for these Gillette cartridges or whatever other brands.
Yeah.
But typically when people do get exposed to it, like I do, and like lots of other types of what you would classify as, it's not a hobby, but it sort of does become a hobby. It's a practical daily thing you have to do, but it can turn into something you enjoy doing as well. You end up spending more money, which is great for people that have businesses that supply these markets, which is leading us into the whole e-commerce thing, which is what our channel's about. We're not a shaving channel, for those who have been listening to the last 15 minutes going, oh my God, Ed and Brendan have turned into a shaving show. Not true. But as people can probably tell,
both of you are quite welcome to join me on my podcast.
Yes, I'll happily come on your podcast, Con. I'm an absolute advocate of it. So, but so what point after doing all these videos, because you've done quite a lot of videos, what point did you go, I'm going to set up a business. I'm going to start supplying all these people?
Well, interestingly, I started off, as I said, doing kind of, sort of a very mild form of an instructional video. This is how you lather. These are the sorts of brushes that you're going to produce, a better shave, and these are the razors that'll help you along the way.
Yep.
And then it morphed into a review channel where I was reviewing products.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be reviewing the latest and greatest, or I'd be reviewing what was available in the market. And at the end of the video, as you would well know, because you've seen a few of them, I believe.
All of them.
I would give them, thank you. I would give my assessment on what I thought whether I thought I gave it an arbitrary number out of 10. I gave it a ranking out of 10. I said this soap was an 8% and it was a 5 for performance and all the rest of it.
Yep.
And I found that the viewing audience liked that. They like to be told, that this, or to get to the bottom of whether a particular product was going to be something that they'd be interested in purchasing or not.
Mm-hmm.
I sold the business, the cafe,
yep,
and took some time off. And so basically I took a break from the cafe. And at the same time, I still kept going with the reviews. But I thought, look, I'm talking about all this stuff. I love this stuff. There's definitely an opportunity here in Australia. there's an opportunity, there's a market here for that, and if there isn't, it's one that's emerging at least anyway, and one that can grow and we can expand on. Why not set up a store, an e-commerce store?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what it did to my videos was it meant all of a sudden that reviewing videos became something that was tricky terrain for me. If I was reviewing products and selling them on the store, then to me it represented a clear conflict of interest. It jeopardised the integrity of the review. So I thought, I'm not going to review products anymore.
Okay.
Because people are going to say, oh, of course he's saying this soap's great, he sells it.
Yep.
Or I thought, I'll only do products that I don't sell. So people won't think that I'm, trying to, flog in my own product, but they're products that we've got in the store. So I went more to a sort of a kind of a discussion / whatever. Anyway, back to the e-commerce store. There are a number of stores available here in Australia in the market that provide very good service. They've got a whole range of products, but I found that what they were carrying were things that were, for want of a better term, readily available items that were mainstream, items that were manufactured by fairly large corporations, very large commercial items.
Yeah, okay.
What I was interested in bringing in were artisan products, products that weren't readily available in this country. Through my travels, I've met these artisans. Yeah.
So when you say artisan, can you expand on what that is for us, please?
Sure. Well, I'll tell you. A commercial brand is obviously one that's produced en masse. So we've got 10,000 plus units of a particular soap or a cream.
Okay. Yep.
And there are companies that produce those sorts of quantities monthly.
Yes.
And they sell through very, very large, Amazons and all these, very, very large on eBay.
Yeah, and in stores, in your department stores.
And in stores, in department stores.
Yep.
Artisans, however, are a lot smaller. They're kind of, I won't call them mum and dad businesses, but they're they're a small business.
Yep.
And they're people that are soapers. They're guys that are on forums and girls that are on forums that are learning about how to make hot processed soaps. We'll just concentrate on soap for a minute. And then they're selling that generally and typically through markets or Etsy or any of these other sort of online stores. And then products that are sort of handmade, made with love, let's say.
Cool.
Right, so they're not mass-produced. What that allows the artisans to do then is, because of their size, is to be a little more agile and flexible in the sorts of scents they can bring in and introduce. They're readily available to people in the community. If you want to talk to someone that makes a soap, you can. You can't talk to the manufacturers of Clarins products, for instance. No. First of all, Clarins might commission a large pharmaceutical or a cosmeceutical company to make their product, and you wouldn't know who that was, where they were based, or anything like that. So the artisan, there's an immediacy there that you can speak directly to them and you can talk to them, and they generally have their ear to the ground. They're the guys right at the coalface. They're on the front line. And so that's why they have that agility, but they also push that kind of market, that small market, but an emerging market.
Definitely. Yep.
So that's what artisans are. They're guys and girls that are making the stuff. They're people that are spending a lot of time and effort through trial and error, coming up with products that work very, very well, but that aren't available on supermarket and large retail stores' shelves.
Yeah. Hence, people like you come into play.
Hence, people like me come into play. And so our point of difference on our e-commerce store is that the products a large number of the products that I sell are products that I've met the makers of. I met the people that manufacture these products are, we've got a relationship with them. And in many cases, I'm friends with these people.
Mm-hmm.
So, and people that are in this hobby, and we'll call it a hobby, I know you're a little bit tentative around that, but let's face it, it's something that most men have to do, or people, you've got to groom yourself. But if you go to the next level, which is definitely where you are, Ed, it's a hobby.
Yeah.
So these people are growing the hobby, and you get to, you get to spend time with them. I mean, I've had dinner with a lot of these people. I've met them, and this is through travels overseas and even people here in Australia. And so they need to be showcased somewhere. They need to be sold somewhere. They can't just be going to local farmers markets and growers markets and expect to sell stuff there and sustain the business. So they need an online presence. Now, they all typically have their own websites, but they need someone that is a vendor that carries a number of products that's able to. So you can jump on our website, for instance, and buy an artisan product, but you can also buy a safety razor from Edwin Jagger.
Yeah. Actually, and an example of where you come and play in one aspect is, and this is something that probably a lot of people don't realise, is a lot of these artisans, they'll make products like shaving soap, but they'll also do aftershaves which contain alcohol. And often there is restrictions on what they can send from the US overseas without jumping through a mountain of hoops to get the product to just an individual orderer. So, and that's where, you've come in, you've taken care of a lot of that, and you have imported and gone through the process of filling in all the right paperwork and getting all that sort of stuff. So you can bring in those types of products that typically someone like me just couldn't go to the maker directly and order. So would that be a fair assessment?
It is a fair assessment. There's a number of things there. Firstly, what happens with the consumer here is that they're leveraging off me. So if they want to purchase something from overseas and firstly it's a prohibited good. They can't, if it's a dangerous good and it contains alcohol, generally speaking, the artisan won't ship it.
Yep.
And if they do, the price will be prohibitive because of shipping costs. If, however, so Ed jumps on but tries to buy something from overseas, finds that a bottle of aftershave is $15. By the time he gets it here, it's $48. And the rest. It might be $48 US.
Yep, definitely.
Landed. We go in and we say, right, we want 100 of these aftershaves and we will help you get these products here. And generally there's things like material safety data sheets and things like that. So because carriers want to know what's in this product.
Yeah.
Now the consumer and the artisan, they're not going to have that discussion. You're not going to sit there and ask that, can you tell me what's in your, what are other than the ingredients? Can you give me flash points, viscosity, toxicity, all this sort of stuff that these people now are finding they have to come up with. So we help them at this end and say, look, you've got to get all your sheets, your data sheets, A-OK, so as we can bring the stuff into the country. It'll benefit your business, it'll benefit our business, it'll expand the market. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. And they do it. These are good points for people to think of if they're looking at starting up an e-commerce store. Then these types of challenges that are happening, particularly if they're in Australia, because a lot of our listeners are in Australia. So if they're in Australia and they're thinking of setting up a store, this may be some of the benefits that they can provide in their market, whatever that is, of where the original manufacturer isn't shipping the products to other countries like Australia or wherever. So I think you've picked up on an opportunity to fill that gap and take that on. So I think that's a pretty wise move on your behalf.
I've got to say that when we started out, there was a reluctance or reticence, but again, because a lot of artisans thought, hang on, I'm not going to be spending $500 per product to get it tested and find out and give you the necessary documentation, which is what it was.
Right. Okay.
So one aftershave or one soap has got to be tested, sent to a laboratory, and the laboratory then sends them a report and says, you now have a material safety data sheet for this product, and it is safe to fly.
Wow.
You can send it.
That's pretty involved.
That's
$500 per product.
Yeah, it's $500.
Yep.
And now some are going to laboratories where they can get it done for $200. Again, it's a commercial thing. You've got to shop around, but there are certain things that you need to satisfy.
Yeah.
And so artisans are saying, hang on, this actually is good for business. We need to do this. They might not be doing it across their entire range. That's why certain artisans are selling certain products overseas, but not all. Mm-hmm. Because it's just the costs in trying to get yourself certified is expensive.
Right. Okay.
There's a cost. But my way of thinking is that it's not expensive at all. It's actually a very good investment in yourself and in your business.
Yeah.
You've got to invest in your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Because now, once that hurdle's been ticked, you can bring in as much as you like of that particular product unrestricted because you've already gone through the processes of getting it approved. So, and that gives you a commercial advantage because lots of other people may have not gone through that process.
Precisely.
So in terms of when you decided to start this business, going back to that point, right? Typically, Brendan and I have people because Brendan is big in e-commerce. That's a main focus that he has as a business, as an agency. What did you go through? What went through your mind? Were you thinking, okay, I've got to have a website? What was your research process in looking at platforms to use to set up websites? Were you looking at things like WordPress or Shopify? Because I know your store is using the BigCommerce platform. So what went through your mind and how did you go through that process?
Well, the process, I mean, my particular case was quite atypical because, as you mentioned earlier, I kind of had a customer base / audience to begin with. So I started the other way around. It wasn't like, I'm going to open up a store and now I'm going to try like hell to try and get customers to the door, get them to visit my store and get the. I already came in with a built-in kind of following, if you like, or people that were interested in the product. So I knew where I was heading in terms of that. The problem that I encountered was, where do you start with something like that? Do you go with a WordPress? Do you go through WordPress, or do you go with a out-of-the-box, ready-to-go, cookie-cutter type e-commerce platform? And I'd asked around and spoke to a number of people, and one of my former students went on and he does his line of work is very, very similar to both of your line of work, and he just said, look, if you want to mobilise this and get this going fairly quickly, then we would probably recommend that you go with BigCommerce. And so we went with BigCommerce based on his recommendation. Right. Is it perfect? Well, no. But I would hasten to add that none of these things are perfect. They're constantly requiring tweaking, and you've got to do things at the back end, and you've got to adjust things. We weren't happy with the theme we had, so we had to, we did tweaked it and got sort of other aesthetic things that we believed in and thought that we should have on our website. And so, we kind of bought a pair of pants and shortened them and took them in here and replaced the flyer with buttons and did all that sort of stuff. So it wasn't ready out of the box stuff, but it was the easiest way to go was to go into BigCommerce at that time. Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that, Brendan? You get asked these questions a lot as well. So what's your typical recommendation for clients?
Yeah, I mean, as Con said, there's no perfect solution. There's BigCommerce, Shopify, WooCommerce, and they all basically at the end of the day, none of it's set and forget. I think we're this kind of this mentality. I think when a lot of people are thinking about opening an online store, or I talk a lot with more traditional bricks and mortar businesses that want to open an online store, it's kind of seen as I can just start a website and I make money in my sleep kind of thing. But it's not really like that at all. I mean, the online store is a business, a standalone. If you had a bricks and mortar business, the online store is like opening another business, really, and it has moving parts. And no matter what platform you're on, they're going to have limitations. They're going to have things they can and can't do, and they're all going to need maintenance and ongoing cost. I think there's I talk with a lot of people that they're upset that they have to pay big monthly fees, or the fee for BigCommerce has gone up or whatever. But the reality is, 10, 20 years ago, you had a shop front that was expensive, that had rent, that had maintenance, that had all this upkeep. For a few $100 a month, you have this virtual store that it needs a little bit of maintenance, but nothing compared to what a real physical store would need. So for anyone starting up a store, it's a process of what business are we in. It's going to need maintenance, it's going to need a budget, and it's going to need time and resources to keep it up to date. There's new features. You're on the web, things change very quickly. New technologies come along very quickly. So no matter what platform you go with, there's going to be problems, there's going to be hiccups, there's going to be maintenance. So that's generally, there's, depending on the business, there's going to be a different platform that suits each individual business. But I think in terms of getting up and running quickly, WordPress needs more customization. If you need to be up and running quickly, and Con already had an audience, so that's he's already miles ahead of someone starting from zero. So a cloud solution is probably better for someone who especially when you have a small team. Like it's when you're starting out in business, you don't have a staff of 5 or 10 people who can juggle. Like you need to, if the software can do the work of people, then you're ahead, and the software is going to be cheaper than having people as well. So
absolutely, yeah, much cheaper. And I think Con was very wise in making that decision. And the thing is, as we've all said, nothing is perfect. And over time, things can either improve or they can decline. And we've all had experiences where we've probably used some type of service, or typically a web service or a software as a service, and sometimes another company comes along and buys it and turns it into a worse product than it was after the company bought it. So all those things can happen, and then often you think, okay, well now I've got to move to a different platform. So nothing stays the same. There's always changes coming, and you've got to pivot and adapt to what happens. But I think using something like BigCommerce or Shopify, they take care of a big chunk of the technical work that you would sometimes have to try and do, or pay someone a lot of money to do separately. So, and say, look, if it gets the job done, and speed to market is always the key. If I had to choose between getting a Shopify site up and running in the space of a month, or stuffing around with some customized system that took 6 months, that could be the difference between the leverage you get in the marketplace and getting a foothold in before someone else does. And that could be all the difference in your success, is that speed. And that's what I personally believe. So Con, how long has the store been running for now?
I've been running the store since December of last year, believe it or not.
Is that all? I thought it was longer.
No, actually, December of 2015.
Oh, 2015. Okay,
2015,
so year and
2015.
Year and a bit. Okay.
Yeah.
And what advice would you give to people? Like, you've obviously done some things you've learnt the hard way, I'm sure, with some things. And so for people who are looking at getting into an e-commerce store, what would be some of the pitfalls to avoid in your personal experience?
Look, the whole process can be quite confronting. I mean, when somebody's thinking about getting into an e-commerce space and starting up a store, there is a phenomenon called analysis paralysis. If you start thinking things, you'll never do anything. You'll just sit there. I think you'd best probably take on one of these, like Shopify or BigCommerce platforms, and look at them carefully. Don't select things based on, for instance, the apps that are available with those platforms. Mm-hmm. Don't go for everyone loves the big thing was, we've got drag and drop things. You can drop things in and you can drop things in. There's an opportunity cost there. You're foregoing a whole lot of freedom for certain things, but it depends what you're selling as well, I guess.
Yeah.
If you need to have a lot more control in the back end, or with the aesthetic of the site, if the aesthetic is something that's important for you. For example, if I'm a photographer that's selling my prints online, I'm not going to have the same sort of requirements as someone that's selling auto parts or something like that. That's a very, very different. Yes. It's a very, very different. I mean, there's similar principles, but the aesthetic is quite different. The functioning is quite different, and so I think one of the pitfalls is this analysis paralysis. You're trying to, I don't know what I don't want to do. I don't know. I'm stuck. My recommendation would be to get onto as many websites as possible as a consumer, and look at these websites and say, right, what is it that I like about this, and what is it that I don't like, and what are the things that I like, and there are things. For example, one of the tests is, look, here's $200. I want you to be able to spend $200 on my site in 60 seconds. Your time starts now.
Good test. I'm sure I've done that on your site.
You've done it on my site, and that's fantastic. That means that if I'm putting things 4, 5, 6, and 7 clicks away from a conversion, then I'm actually not doing myself any favors at all. But if I can purchase in 3 to 4 clicks, in other words, the funnel to the cart is streamlined, then that's something that's going to assist my business. Now, it might sound a bit sort of a bit airy. What do you mean by going through 3 or 4 clicks? I mean, it doesn't matter if people are browsing your site and they're window shopping and they're looking in there and they're clicking out of one thing and going into another thing, whatever. But if somebody's got money to spend and they want to spend it with you, you've got to make it as seamless and as easy as possible.
You're talking Brendan's language now, mate. He's getting all excited now. He's going, yeah.
I know he is. Right. If you're 5 or 6 clicks away from a sale and you've made it too hard, forget it. It's game over. Yeah. They'll have to go. They'll get called out. So, come on, sit down. We're having some dinner. Oh, okay, right. So the person just leaves things in the cart, or they leave things where they are, and you've lost the sale because they won't come back to that at all. It'll be something. They're on to the next thing. So you've got to make it as seamless as possible. Now, if I have to go through 13 or 14 clicks to get to a product, to get a product into a cart, because of the website's architecture, or because of the way you've set it up, then that's a problem. So I guess what I'm saying is all of these sites that are out of the box, ready to go, are not going to solve every single problem, but they are fairly reasonable conduits to a fairly seamless conversion. You'll get to where you want to get to fairly quickly.
Yeah, good point. Very good point. And Brendan, what are your comments on that?
Yeah, I agree. Also, you're not going to go from 0 to perfect on day one. Like something that works and it's functional, and it needs to be of a certain design standard. Like you don't want it looking horrible, but I think there's a tendency, like Con said, that the analysis paralysis, and I want it perfect on day one. It's just that's not how the world works. Like it's a constant work in progress. The website the website's never really going to be finished. Like there's always something you can do to improve it or tweak or do better, or there's customer feedback. So totally agree with what you're saying, Con.
Yeah,
I think, and this look, there's a great old saying, I think it was Oscar Wilde, who said, "A mediocre person is always at their best." So if you think that you've got the best site or whatever, you're fooling yourself. It's a work in progress. These things happen over time. I mean, if I had my time again, and then that's probably another question. In fact, that's probably...
If you had your time over again, what would you do?
Well, again, see, time is of the essence here. I mean, if you want to mobilize this and get things going, then I would certainly say there is absolutely nothing wrong with any of these cookie cutter solutions. Your WooCommerces, your BigCommerce, your Shopifys. There's nothing wrong with it at all. But if I had the luxury of time, and I wanted flexibility and a little more control, I'd probably be looking at WordPress.
Okay, interesting.
Have I said the wrong thing there?
No, there's no wrong thing, but that's an interesting.
That's right.
Interesting viewpoint, because this, Brendan and I have talked about that a lot. And I think, Brendan, and you correct me if you disagree, or don't correct me, but tell me if you disagree, that WooCommerce, the system that connects up with WordPress, has improved a lot over the years, and particularly since WordPress now sort of bought them out and they have it as part of their package. So what's your thoughts on that, Brendan? That's an interesting comment by
it has improved a lot. I think there's a lot of people have a tendency to lean towards WordPress because they think it's free, but really they all really end up costing the same. So if you took Shopify, BigCommerce, and WordPress WooCommerce run properly, you'd probably be, at the end of the day, the same. The cost structure is going to be different, but you're going to be out of pocket roughly the same. But the problem with WooCommerce is that a lot of people don't account for the fact that you need to pay for support. You might need 15 different plugins to get all the features you want, and each of those needs support. Support's going to be $50 to $100 a year at least for each of those plugins, and they need to be kept up to date and everything else. So you end up, I don't know what you're paying to BigCommerce each month, Con, but I'm guessing it's you're paying a few thousand a year probably, and whatever it is, hosting costs and everything else. For a WordPress site, it's going to be roughly the same. Like to host it properly and do the plugins and updates. I mean, you can ignore those, but then one day the whole thing's going to fall over. So definitely more flexibility.
I see it as it's like the sort of excitement around 15, 20 years ago when you went into a car yard and someone says, "Oh, look, and it includes air conditioning. This car includes air." And whoa, great, we don't have to pay for air conditioning. And people thought that, if you wanted air conditioning, it was an $1,800 add-on, right?
Yep.
Now the norm is that every car comes out with air conditioning, and so that's not a feature that you can get excited about anymore, because the whole thing the game has improved, vehicle technology has improved. Things like Bluetooth connectivity and all that sort of stuff is everything from high-end vehicles all the way down to sort of, entry-level vehicles. I'm not going to get excited about Bluetooth connectivity in a car.
No.
15 years ago I may have, or 10 years ago I may have.
Yep.
So you still end up paying. I mean, if you want this business of putting, adding things on, really at the end of the day, you're going to end up paying the same sort of money anyway.
So what was it in terms of, you're saying if you could go back and do things again, if time was, a luxury, why WordPress? What is your reasoning behind the whole WordPress thing?
Well, I think to me, it seems that there's a little more control in what you can do and how you can make. I mean, I know you can buy themes, right? Now, themes for me are a double-edged sword. I don't want to get locked into a particular theme. I mean, the theme that we have on our site has been tweaked. It's not straight out of the box. In fact, I have a friend who has the same theme in the UK, and he says, "Is this the same?" I said, "I don't know. You tell me."
Yeah.
It's the same thing, but we've done things to it. We've gone to the back end and we've had to pay to get certain things done. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not entirely happy with it, but they're things that I could not have known when I purchased that theme.
Exactly.
Okay. So then so if you want to transport something from one to another, if you want to go from one particular, like for example, I could get on there tonight and say, I want to change my theme. Just for a giggle,
Yeah.
Oh, no. I mean, that's a world of pain, I suspect.
Yeah.
I mean, that's tears before bedtime. So because you're locked into a very rigid. I could be wrong, of course. I mean, I could be talking through my hat here. What would I know? I'm just the shave guy. But I think that I want a little bit more flexibility, and I want to be able to do things. There's a certain aesthetic that you grow into this thing. There's a style. There's an aesthetic.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, that's definitely the thing though with WordPress, because it's open source. Once you've got it on your platform, I mean, you have a lot more choice in how you can tweak it and attack it and cut it up, and you can do a lot more with the code. Whereas when you're working with someone's proprietary platform like Shopify or BigCommerce, you're working within those parameters of what they let you do. And if they say, no, sorry, you can't do that, then you're stuck. That's, you've hit the wall. Where typically with WordPress, you have a lot more flexibility in the customization of it. So in my experience,
I see it exactly as this artisan versus large company scenario. It's the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
If you know what you're doing and you get the proper support, and I know you've got to pay for it, nothing is free. But if you get the proper support, you can tweak things and have a little more agility in something that is open source, and you can make it look the way you want it, and you get it to function the way you want. If you buy into, for example, there's something quite basic. If I can use an example, if you're going into the back end of a product and you want to type in a title and then a meta description, a simple thing like giving you a word or a character count. Right, so you're not exceeding. You don't want any truncated. You want to know that you're within. So when people look your product up and they find it on Google, nothing is truncated. It's all.
Yep.
Well, that doesn't exist on BigCommerce.
Ah, okay.
Now that's a very simple plug-in, isn't it?
You would think. Mm-hmm. Yep, you would think it would be. So.
Well, it is. I think it is in WooCommerce. I can't remember what the thing is. It's some plug-in that you put in, and it tells you this is. It's a word, and in fact, I think Shopify, it's native. It's there. It's already there. So you know that if you exceed the characters, it's going to look. It's just going to truncate the title or the meta description as you've gone way over.
Yeah, definitely.
So there's a little example of just how annoying something like that could be. If I'm typing a meta description and I don't want to go over, I wanted to construct this and do something that I feel is important for my business and my online store, and that is to get those things right.
Mm. Yeah,
I'm guessing.
Yeah, and
I'm going to have to.
You do have that sussed pretty well, I got to say, because I search on Google for a lot of different products, and you do appear in the Google organic search rankings pretty high up quite often. You're in the top minimum on the first page, but quite often in the top 5 for particular products searched on in Australia. So I think you've done well in that regard. And I've run a lot of workshops in Perth, and I've been using your site and your YouTube channel as an example. So if all of a sudden you start getting lots of people in Perth ordering products, I'll take the credit for that, mate.
Well, there has been a lot of people in Perth that are ordering products, I have to say.
Is there? Well, I'll take all the credit. So thank you. Where's my bloody affiliate commission, buddy? Come on.
I think you should. We should. Well, let's embed some stuff. Hey?
Yeah, let's do that. You set up an affiliate program, and I'm onto it. But I honestly have been doing that. I've been using you as an example because I get a little bit jaded in the world of digital marketing and e-commerce stuff, and I see so many things that are being done poorly that when I came across your stuff. And right down to things that, like, it's attention to detail. You guys have massive attention to detail. And it's things like when the product comes in the box. Well, first of all, your boxes are branded, right, which is often something I don't get. You wrap everything nicely. If it's a liquid product, it's in an actual sealed plastic bag, and you tape the cap so nothing leaks. And I've had stuff come from overseas with the opposite. Just packed with some scrunched up newspaper. I'm not going to mention the company. Packed with scrunched up newspaper. So the experience, right? This is why Apple does so well. It's not just their products, it's the experience. When the actual package arrives, you go, oh, goody. It's something from the Stray Whisker. And you open it up, and then the whole product is wrapped in a nice black paper with a sticker over the top that says the Stray Whisker. So your branding's there. The experience is there. You or Kim, I'm not sure who does it, I think it might be Kim, hand writes on the actual invoice saying, thanks for the order, Ed, greatly appreciated, and all that sort of stuff. So there's that personal touch on everything that comes through. And that is, people don't understand how big a difference that makes compared to just the general package arrival from another company. They don't get that.
And as you're saying this, I'm hearing this and I'm thinking, people listening to this might think, oh, yeah, I guess it's a bit inauthentic, handwritten notes and all that sort of stuff. We are mortified if something goes wrong. If anything goes wrong in the process of us packing, putting things, in a box and making sure that it's all done properly and it's sent off, and then it arrives and we track the parcels and all that sort of stuff. We want to make sure that, because I know what you've done is you purchased a little gift for yourself, and it needs to be that. When you open it up, it's like the gift to you.
Yes.
And so you need to feel, I know that it is very, very, very important. And so on the odd occasion, and there are only been very few, thankfully, where a parcel might go missing or something happens, we immediately say, there's an opportunity to turn this into a positive.
Yes.
So we just think, I'm not going to mope around about this. Let's get it done. Let's get it sorted. Let's go. You can't do that if there's inauthenticity involved in the process. You've got to really believe what you're doing. And I guess that's where we're coming from. And that's what we try and put in that box. Every time you open that box, you're not just opening a box of stuff you bought. It's, oh yeah, just jumped on and bought it. Hopefully you're getting a part of what we believe in, and there's price and there's value. And so we believe in value. We believe in giving a person value, and part of that is the release of endorphins when you open that box.
Yes.
And that's what you're getting every time.
Yes, and it's going to happen, as I said before we started the podcast, a package is arriving from you probably as soon as I get off. It hasn't happened yet. So we've got to end this podcast so I can be ready waiting for my package, Con. So yeah, but it is an experience. Brendan's gone silent again, so he's either laughing or he's muted or he's. But no, he's good. He's good. I'm just having a go. But this is the whole thing that people miss. The attention to detail in e-commerce is critical. It's the difference between me going and ordering a product from you and spending $50 and then never ordering from you again because it was a shit experience, or coming back time after time after time and ordering more things because you just feel good. It's a good experience. You're getting what you want, great customer service, and that is the separator between the e-commerce sites that will go bust and the ones like yours that I think will keep growing and having great success. So Brendan, is there anything you would like to ask Con before because we've been on now for 50 odd minutes and it's time to let
I think we've covered a lot of ground, I think.
So I would like to say, Con, thank you again. And I have no affiliation with Con. I am a customer of Con's, just to be clear. This isn't a paid presentation. I've just asked Con on because I'm exceptionally impressed with himself and Kim and their business and what they do, and a great story. And it needs to be shared, and other people who are, I know a lot of people who are getting started in e-commerce stores. And this is why I say this is a great example for people to go and look at and emulate, not copy, emulate what Con and Kim are doing. So thank you, Con, for coming on the podcast.
Well, thanks for having me on, gentlemen. It was an absolute pleasure. Wonderful talking to you, Ed, and nice to meet you, Brendan.
And Con, how can people get in touch with you? What's the best way for people to go to your website, follow you on YouTube? We'll put this in the show notes as well so people can see.
Yeah, they can just, they can jump on the website if they like, thestraywhisker.com.au.
Yep.
That's thestraywhisker.com.au. We're also on Facebook at The Stray Whisker, and that's the same for Instagram and Twitter as well.
Fantastic. And also hop on YouTube and look for Shave the Man. Do a search on
Shave the Man. Shave the Man is the original channel, and we also have a Stray Whisker TV channel where we spotlight some of the products and highlight some of the products, and wanted to keep those two separate. So one is direct affiliation with the Stray Whisker, that's the Stray Whisker TV, and the other one is the Shave the Man community channel, the one where we talk about reviews and tips and hints and all sorts of other interesting things.
Fantastic. And I believe you're heading over to the US in April for
so we're heading over to LA. Yeah, the Big Shave West. That's a convention / humongous meetup that happens the 22nd of April. So that really looking forward to that.
So that's lots of people who are in the shaving community, but also vendors as well, so artisans who make the soaps and provide products, etc. So it was all sort of in the one spot. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. It's quite bizarre. I mean, I'd love to have something like that here in Australia. I think we're getting there, but it's basically kind of like it's a bit weird, really. It's like a convention where blokes, and ladies just turn up, and there's products they can sample, and it's like a show. It's basically like an Easter show, like that, where you get a bag of goodies and all that sort of stuff, and you press the flesh, you meet people, you talk to the people that make the products, you talk to vendors, you find out what's happening. It's like the big show that's on in Vegas every year. The Consumer Electronics Show, the CES.
Yeah, just a miniature version of that to do with shaving.
A smaller version, that's right.
Yeah. And you're probably one of the only Aussies that turn up, I'm guessing.
I am the only Aussie.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll have to come along next year. I'll have to make it a thing to go to. Oh, absolutely. So thanks again, mate. Greatly appreciated. Have a super day, and we'll maybe catch up another time to see how things have progressed with the Stray Whisker. So
look forward to it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Business Marketing Show. You can find us at businessmarketingshow.com on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher.